Good morning and welcome to the Homestead CPA. My name's Dan Snyder. We've completed the 15-part video series on basic accounting, tax, and legal issues for homesteaders, and I wanted to do another video that arose out of my talk at the Ozark Homestead Expo, where I spoke last year in September. At that expo, there were a number of vendors who were selling both solar and wind power equipment. As an attorney and a CPA who has a wind turbine that generates electricity for our ranch, I wanted to speak on issues arising from the purchase and installation of renewable energy equipment when it comes to homesteaders. Now, there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding about the tax benefits and tax credits that are available. And the reason for that is that there are two basic different kinds of credits. The first is the renewable residential energy credit under Section 25, and the second is the renewable business energy credit under Section 48. So for those of you who are owners of a residence, you're homesteaders, but you're not in business, you're not doing a business at your home, you would qualify for the residential credit. And basically that credit, which at this point in time in filming, March the 2nd of 2025, the credit of 30% is still available, although this may very well change due to the new administration. The tax credit of 30% is available not just for the cost of the solar panels or the wind turbine, but also all the related pieces and equipment that are necessary to actually make the system work. In addition, there's a credit available for battery backups for renewable energy systems. So it's something important to keep in mind that you track all of your costs if you are going to have one of these systems. Now, what is the difference? Well, as I mentioned, for a residential credit, this has to be your residence. You can't take the residential credit on a property that you're leasing to somebody or renting to somebody, and you can't take a residential credit on your second home. This is only for your primary residence that this qualifies. Now, that 30% credit, if you've got a $60,000 solar installation, is $18,000. You might say, Dan, I don't pay $18,000 in tax every year, and that's fine. You can use the credit to offset the tax in your current year, and then you can carry the balance forward. What you cannot do with a residential energy credit is get a tax refund for the credit itself. Now, you may get a refund of money you've paid in as tax, but you don't get a refund for the credit yourself. So there's some significant differences, but I wanted to lay out the residential credit first because that's what most people are going to be eligible for. Now, what if you run a small business out of your home? Well, as long as the use of your home, the business use, is less than 20%, then you can still take the full residential energy credit. But if it's more than 20%, let's say you had a big facility that you use for business and it was 30% of the total, then you would only qualify to take 70% of the 30% credit. So it's important to speak with your advisor about exactly what you're doing, how you're doing it, and make sure you've got all the data that you can give to them. Now, how does the business tax credits differ? The business tax credits for renewable energy are optional. There is one tax credit, which is a 2.7 cents per kilowatt hour credit, which is available. Or in the alternative, you can take a similar 30% tax credit for the cost of the qualified renewable energy installation. So that, in a way, is very similar to what you have as a residential user. But in addition, business users have two other possible credits. The first is a 10% credit for renewable energy items that are made in the United States. Now, this was enacted to try and get solar panel manufacturers, wind turbine manufacturers, etc., to begin manufacturing in the U.S. And so the reality is there aren't very many that qualify for this purpose. There are some very severe limitations on this, and there's a lot of unknown questions at this stage that may make it such that no renewable energy installations would qualify. Definitely you need to speak to your tax advisor about that. The second, or third, I should say, available credit is another 10% credit, which is for those areas that have been extraordinarily hit in terms of employment for the energy industry. So we live in North Texas, and our oil workers are not gainfully employed to a large extent. So we qualify this year for that credit. Now, next year, if everybody goes back to work, we won't qualify. The IRS publishes a table with each county in the United States, and so you can look to see if your county is in that table and if you qualify, if you're claiming a business tax credit for that additional 10%. The other item that has attracted a lot of attention for business credits is the fact that the business credits can actually be sold. So let's say that you had a business tax credit of $100,000 and you couldn't use all of that, and you had someone who was interested in buying the credit, you could sell it to them and get your cash up front. Now, as you might imagine, if you come to me and say, hey, would you like to buy $100,000 worth of tax credits? I'm not going to pay you $100,000. Why? Because I could pay my own $100,000. I don't need your credits. But if you say, hey, I'll make you a deal, I'll sell you this $100,000 worth of tax credits, and you only have to pay me $90,000. Okay, now I'm interested in speaking to you. This sale has got a lot of restrictions. You can't do it between family members, and there's other restrictions available. But the primary restriction is that the use of the credits purchased by individuals is limited. And so the primary market for the purchase of these credits is going to be corporations, C corporations that are taxable in their own right, the ownership of which is not related to the party that generated the tax credit. While an individual can buy these credits, that credit can only be used to offset income tax on what's known as passive income. And as a result, there are that many people, individuals, who are going to qualify to want to buy these credits in the first instance. So yes, it's something that's possible. Yes, it's something that is available, but it's not something that's necessarily going to be hugely advantageous to you. So these are some of the primary differences. As I said, as of March the 2nd, 2025, these credits are still in place. Be sure and talk to your tax advisor before you make any commitments, sign any papers. And the last thing is to remember that there's more than just solar and wind. There's lots of different types of renewable energy. Many of them are covered by the Section 48 credit. So talk to your tax advisor and make sure you've got an up-to-date list of which ones qualify. Have a great day, and remember, even Jesus paid taxes.